without further ado, I'm really excited to get to introduce to you Peter Joseph. Peter Joseph, of course, made Zeitgeist, which I would say is the second most viewed video, just from my analysis. In internet history, I would still say that Loose Change is number one, but that's because it's been out longer. In the future, it remains to be seen, but the two films definitely are the most viewed in viral history on the internet. And the maker, Peter Joseph, has now made a Zeitgeist Addendum, another 2-hour film, very well done. He works in professional TV. And he did this on his own, though. It's excellent. And he went out and actually did a lot of interviews and things for it as well, not just internet clips that he combined for the first Zeitgeist. And I agree with about 90% of what is in the film. I think that the interpretation, the subtle way it's put out, people are going to misinterpret a lot of it. That was my point, criticizing some of it earlier in the week. I also think that it's another form of orthodoxy to make fun on a high horse of religious groups and people who are religious. Because, the human mind, human sight and smell only picks up a very narrow spectrum of reality. That's been scientifically proven. Is there a lot of quackery and superstition and kooky stuff going on out there? Certainly. And that's why I get away from, organized religion myself. But I think that in a way it actually divides people that both films have decided attacks on religion, especially Christianity. And I'm allowed to have that view and say that I don't particularly agree with that. I don't hate Peter Joseph because of his views. I don't look down on him. I don't even judge him. I just am allowed to have my view that I think that that is itself a little bit closed-minded. That doesn't mean that I buy into every superstition out there. And conversely, people like to start fights between any, big alternative media movement icons or films. I have a lot of Zeitgeist people that attack me and say horrible things about me, and they're not Zeitgeist people, but people that are followers of the film or use the name as a maxim or a logo, kind of like the shingle or the flag they fly. And then a lot of folks who call themselves Alex Jones listeners who viciously attack Zeitgeist because of its anti-Christian bent. And then that's probably why the Zeitgeist folks are attacking me, and then my people are attacking them more. And then then that kind of creates with myself a subconscious disliking for it, because then I get attacked by a lot of extreme closed-minded Christians and Muslims and religionists out there who get mad that my footage is in Zeitgeist. He put it in there first, and later he said, hey, can I use it? And I said, fine. And he has the rights to use the footage that he has in the first Zeitgeist now, because I'm actually for open discussion and things being out there, and a lot of people found my work because of Zeitgeist. So, I believe that we can take good out of even things that I see as not, effective or true in Zeitgeist itself. So with that said, as my opening statement, I want to bring Peter Joseph up on the air and let him have an opening statement about himself, Zeitgeist, and where all of this is going. Peter, great to have you here.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate you having me on, and I'm glad you pointed out what you did. I think a lot of people listening to this cast are going to, sit there waiting for some type of duke out between you and I. And debate is really an infantile disposition. I think discussion and open discussion is what we need to engage in. We learn from each other, and that's what a society should really be thinking when we engage ideas that are conflicting from one belief system to another. Competition, things like this that we think are naturally bred into us, dispositions of winning. These are things I would like to address today. I know you have different dispositions, as you've stated, for example, in your October 8th broadcast. And before I begin any of that, however, since you did bring up Christianity, first thing, I'm not attacking Christians whatsoever. I think anybody who pays attention to what I've stated, as far as the first film, I go into the historical bases of Christianity, and then I linger into the philosophical dispositions and how it's very restrictive of the human mind. In the second film, I detail how essentially the belief system itself is based on a rejection of new information. And this is very important and very difficult to deny when you get into faith-based ideologies. And the whole encompassment, if that's a word, of the second film is to really try to pull people into a train of thought that's aligned with nature. And that's why I present the Venus Project, and that's why I present these seemingly spooky things that people have been conditioned to fear, such as centralization of power, but it's not centralization of power in the orthodox manner that many people think to be true or fearful of, or what history has presented. Because the flaw of our society at its very core is that it has not addressed the root problems of what we're doing. And those root problems are sourced in human behavior, not secret societies or elites or even human instinct. We have to look at the environment and what the environment is producing, and then from there we'll know the resolution. And that's what I'd like to talk about today with you.
Well, Peter, out of the gates, global warming has become a religion. The environment is important. The load of the earth is important. But technologies, as you and the experts you interview have rightly assessed, we can transcend all those problems. And that is being suppressed by the elites who want to continue a cartel or an oligopoly. But, you talk about the load of the earth and, running things according to the load of the earth. Well, the controllers, they're already using that. And saying we are going to, as a technocracy, as a scientific system, we are going to scientifically design society, and we're saying carbon dioxide's bad when that's what plants breathe, and one of the four major elements, light, water, carbon dioxide, and oxygen, that make life possible here. So see, out of the gates, there's that oversimplification. I think it's important to have the discussion. It's just the way it can be interpreted that's a religion too. There is a religious belief that carbon dioxide is bad and evil and a toxic waste.
Yeah, there's also a religious belief that the free market system is the end-all to our progress as a civilization. They're all religious beliefs in their own accord if they're not addressed in a highly intellectual and scrutinizing manner. The best form of reference for that type of disposition or analysis, if you will, is what you refer to as the scientific method. Everything that we have, well, first of all, let me counter one thing. Essentially, what you're seeing with this ruling elite that you refer to, that, of course, they will use technology against humanity, the microchip, surveillance. We're seeing this rampantly. Why? Because their social system is failing. They have to preserve the structure. At least that's my opinion, and we can go into more detail for that. However, they are totally out of line with nature. So what they're implying will never really work, because it will just produce more instability, that people will eventually rise up above it, because the system is emergent, and we are always learning new things, and things that do not work as the emergence proceeds will be phased out. And this is where social stratification and all of these different elements come into play. You see, I'm not talking about, for example, on your October 8th your review of the piece, you implied to your audience that there would be this eradication of the social structure. Remember when you said that? As though that someone's going to come around with a gun and shoot people that are involved in the wrong type of social stratification. That is not at all what this idea is about whatsoever. The eradication notion comes from the disposition that human awareness, human value systems will be altered as the society is culminated in more alignment with nature itself. Now, that's a very difficult thing.
Yeah, well, how do you gauge the alignment with nature, and what scientist or group is going to be able to develop the gauge by which you set up that system?
Well, you can look at it from, here's a very oversimplified example, but it gets the point across very easily. If you have a plot of land and you want to do something with that land, say grow something on it, build something on it, you're going to analyze the topsoil of it. The parameters of that land become self-evident as to what you can do on it. Now, when you apply this to the planet, you begin to see that the resources that the society needs, which can be assessed through surveying what is necessary for the society, has a natural development and can occur naturally without opinion whatsoever, because you're basing it on tangible resource management of the planet. That's why in the film I keep going back to the same point.
Stay there. We're going to skip this break right now. Here we go. Okay, continue, Peter.
It's the intelligent management of the Earth's resources that's needed. Now, people don't understand what that means. They don't know what that means because they've been so conditioned into this completely artificial structure of money and labor for money, competition for labor, and money for resources. This is a completely fictional disposition. It's a false system because there's nothing but resources. And the ideology that will construct our new world, so to speak, is an ideology based on resource management as denoted through the scientific method. So that plot of land has the resources available. The only way you can have unification, intellectual unification, let me back up. The only way you can have an abundance and an optimization of our world is if you understand what the planet has and you gauge all of its resources. This is why an intellectual unification that Jacques Fresco talks about, world unification, it's not world government at all. It's an entirely different ideological disposition based on what's available on the planet, what the society needs. And this is an extremely long-winded conversation. I wish we had more time.
Yeah, but who's going to decide what humanity needs?
The question isn't who's going to decide. It's how will the decisions be made. it's an ideological-based assumption based on nature. There's an empirical order that's been working in nature forever. For example, anything that you have in your studio right now, all the technology is derived from one processes, and that's called the scientific method. Our society needs to be completely in accord with this. The parameters are self-evident once you get this train of thought going.
But there aren't going to be people that, quote, want to be in accord, and there's huge debates within the scientific method. And so how are you going to bring something completely into accord or eradicate that?
Well, this is why human behavior has to be understood, which is another very important point that we need to
I mean, and I disagree with you that humans are fundamentally, don't have competition in them.
Okay, well,
I mean, that is all over the animal kingdom. That is the name of the game.
Sure, but why? Why does the animal kingdom have this?
Because of resources.
Exactly.
But also because of the design in our development within that system of competition